Hey there, Alicia Cologne, paper illustrator and your creative guide to create a vintage paper camper. Now, off the bat, you probably noticed that yours is a different color than mine, and that's completely okay. This tutorial will cover all the different color flows, but what's important is the shape of the pieces. So as we move forward, I'll be sure to point out the shapes of the pieces as we move along so you can follow with me. Okay, now on top of that, what else do we need? Well, first and foremost is glue. This tacky glue can be found at Unstationary or any local craft store to you. Secondly, I really suggest a craft rag, something that is coarse that will allow you to get and scrub the glue off your fingers or your plates because you don't want it on your craft. Okay, other things that would be really helpful but you don't necessarily need are rulers and tweezers. All right, so if you have that, really cool. If you don't, not a big deal. Okay, so you have your supplies. Let's talk about the tutorial. This tutorial is meant to be paused, so I suggest you watch a segment or re-watch the segment and then replicate the actions. All right, now it's gonna take a little bit for you to complete your craft, so feel free to tackle this in one sitting or complete it over the course of a couple of days. Your pace is completely up to you. Do what you feel comfortable with. All right, guys, well, it looks like we're all set. You ready? Let's get going. Okay, gang, so the first thing that we're gonna do is that we're going to obviously open up our kit, but we're gonna separate things out in different colors, okay? So I already got a yellow piece out here. But when you open up your piece, you're gonna notice that you guys have a little plastic baggie. So don't lose that, that's all your little tiny pieces. But everything else, go ahead and separate in different colors. And I will see you guys back in a moment. So every kit has 4 color flows, so therefore there should be 4 groups. The first thing that we're gonna do is that we're gonna go ahead and start making the bottom here. All right, and so the bottom pieces that you guys are gonna need, you're gonna need this piece. Ooh, this stuck in here. You need these pieces. And then you're also gonna need the 2 body pieces, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and move everything over so you guys can see what's happening. Okay, so you have 2 windows, all right? But you see that one matches fairly better than the other, obviously. So this one has a small window and then a medium window, and this one has a bit of a longer window. So we're gonna go ahead and put this over to the side, and this is gonna be the one that we work with. Now, this is our bottom, and you can see that there are 2 different kind of tabs here. We have sawtooth tabs and we have box tabs. Every time you guys see a box tab, that is for a straight path. But every single time you guys see a sawtooth tab, you can bet that that's going to be for a curved edge. So as we're looking at this as this example here, you can see that the curve is happening towards the back. And so therefore, I'm going to need to turn my section around. All right, so we're gonna have flats and then we're gonna have a curved. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is that we need to bend these tabs away from us. And so I'm gonna do this 2 ways. One, I'm gonna do this just bending them with my fingers. So those that do not have rulers, or an X-Acto knife, or not X-Acto knife, tweezers, this is just how you're doing it. Now notice when I'm doing it, what I'm trying to do is try to make sure that this is as strict as a line as possible. Now this one's gonna be a little bit more difficult, but what I do is I put 2 little fingers on kind of at the base on one side and then the other, and then I bend it to try to make sure that it is straight as possible. All right. Now, notice that there is a little bit of an indent right here. It's not perfect, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So that's the good news. All right, so those of you who have a ruler and a tweezer, let me show you how you guys are gonna go about it. You guys are going to put the tweezers, there you go. You're gonna put the ruler along this edge, making sure that you're lining it up with the points of where the box tabs, right? And everything kind of goes in there. So you can see I'm getting as close as possible. And then I'm gonna take my tweezers, put them together, and just draw a line. And then what I did is I created a score mark that you guys can see that is a crease in the paper that's going to allow a cleaner fold. So that's very, very clean. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we're going to go ahead and do is that we're going to bend at these little vertices here. All right. So this vertice to that vertice will be a edge that we will make. Now, again, if you guys have rulers, you can go ahead and score this, but if you don't, you can quite literally just bend it, lining it up. Okay. All right, so you guys saw just how I did that, right? All right, so one of the things that's really interesting is, as you guys can see here, is that it goes flat and then it goes inside and then it goes back out. All right, so there's kind of like a divot here, but you don't necessarily see that divot here. You see a little bit, but actually this bottom piece is going to go in way more, and the reason why is because it is a well for the tires. Okay. And so that means what's going to happen is the way that we're going to glue these tabs are going to be very interesting, and it's going to be very different. All right, so what I'm going to need you guys to do, and just trust me on this, all right, is the first tab, the back sawtooth tabs, and this back tab, go ahead and flip outward. These three inward, this one outward. All right, so that's how it's going to need to be. All right, and if you guys just want to watch this, that's completely fine. Now what's going to happen right now, you guys see that there's a definite curve that's happening, right? So it's going down and then it's going to go back up. What we actually want this to happen is that we want this to go up, we want this to go down, right? So look, it's flat, it's going up, it's going flat, then it's going to go down again, and then this is going to curve. All right, so like Christmas with scissors with ribbon, when you pull it and you stretch it, we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to curve it. All right, and so that is how it's going to go. However, we're going to have some of these tabs go on the outside of the body, and we're going to have some of these tabs go on the inside of the body. And I know that it's going to be really hard for me, to explain it. So it's just easier for me to do it so you guys can see what's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm only going to put glue on this first one. Okay. All right, so there we go. All right. Now, so this is happening on the outside. The other tabs that are pointing to the right, those are going to go on the outside too, while these tabs will be glued on the inside. So now that we have these first, this one done, we have the anchor done, we can go ahead and work on the exterior tabs. All right, so as you guys have probably noticed, we have a box tab connected to sawtooth. So that means we're going to have a flat piece, and it's going to transition into a curve. And if we look at our body piece, we can see that we have that going on. We have a flat piece and it's transitioning to a curved piece. So what we need to do is that we're going to put glue on this exterior tab, and then we're going to glue the sawtooth exterior tabs. And then once we have all the exterior tabs glued, we're going to go ahead and work on the interior ones. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and bend those back out. All right. So again, feel free to pause at any point. All right, so I have that done. I'm using the pointer finger of my left hand to counterbalance or counter pressure. So, and one of the reasons why we do an exterior tabs here is because it's easier to form the shape when we put the tabs on the outside using this as a structural guide, right? Otherwise, you'd have to kind of do it on the inside of the body and it wouldn't work really well. Okay, so now we're gonna put glue on these tabs, but before I put glue on it, I wanna show you the way that I want these to look, all right? So very much, I want there to be a diagonal coming in flat and the diagonal coming out. Okay, so that's how we're gonna do it. Now, it doesn't have to be precise. No one's gonna see it. It's just it's the mechanism of which the wheels rest on. So it's really not that big of a deal. So there we go. I'm just gonna hold this for a second. Okay. So if you don't have that already done, go ahead and hit pause and finish that up, and then we'll move to the next part. All right, well, I guess we're ready to go ahead and move on. So what we're gonna do is that the exterior tabs, we're gonna go ahead and flip out. Okay, and we're gonna grab the other side of our body. Now we need to make sure that the windows and the orientation match our first body. So right now you can tell that they are not matching. So I need to flip and make sure that both of my short windows are in the front and that both fronts are facing to the right hand side. All right, and then we're essentially gonna do the same thing, okay? But instead of gluing the exterior first and the interior last, I'm going to go ahead and put glue on all of this. Okay. Now, still working from my anchor, I'm going to go ahead and put my anchor in. I'm going to make sure that these points line up. Now, if I'm getting glue on the other sides, it doesn't matter. Meaning like on this side, if that glue is spreading, I'm not pushing pressure on it, so the adhesion is not strong. All right, and so once I have that exterior done, I'm gonna go ahead and move to this exterior. Again, using my left fingers as counter pressure. Okay, nice. All right, and then once that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and do the interior. Now you guys can't really see what I'm doing, but again, it's still gonna have this 2 diagonals and a flat. Now again, if it doesn't line up perfect, it's really not that big of a deal. All right, and there you go. Now you guys have your structure. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and get that done, and then meet me back. Okay, we're ready to go ahead and do the back or do the front. Now, one of the things that I want to go ahead and kind of give you guys a little bit of a heads up is if you notice, I mean, I already have a smudge here, is that we're going to get glue on the faces of these of this camper, right? But it's okay because there's a lot of coverings that will actually happen to cover up A, the glue, and B, the tabs, all right? And while that's true for these faces, it is not true for the edges. All right, so the faces we can get glue on, but I definitely want us to make sure that we keep this part as clean as possible. And that is going into what we're about to work on. So we're going to be working on this top piece right here. And specifically, we're going to be adding this spare, I have fake snow, so don't mind it. Specifically this back tire holder, okay? So the pieces that you guys need is this long piece, a circle of the same color, and these 2 pieces of the same color. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we're going to take this little piece, and like we did last time, you guys see that there are sawtooth combs, so therefore you guys know that these are going to go ahead and be curved. So I'm going to go ahead and curve them, and then also on top of that, all of the sawtooth, I'm going to go ahead and push them away from me, bending them down. Okay, so what we're going to do now is that we're going to put glue on the first and glue on the last one, and we're going to glue them on the other side. Now notice that I don't have glue on my pieces yet. What I'm doing is I'm practicing putting my piece down, folding and molding before I put glue on there, just so I can get muscle memory. And I definitely suggest that you guys do the same thing. All right, so I'm going to hold that just for a second while this glue is fast grabbing. It doesn't like dry instantaneously, so I know that I can definitely wait for a second before I put that second piece down. Alrighty. And again, all I did is I glued the first and the last piece, okay? I didn't glue any of these. And I don't necessarily need to. If you want to, go ahead, that's fine. But I'll show you guys why in a minute. I'm just trying to get this excess glue off. All right, cool. So now if you guys notice, we definitely have a little bit of a like wobble there. That's where this comes in. And so as soon as we put glue on the circle, it's going to fortify everything. And on top of that, all of those little extra tabbies that I did not glue are going to be adhered down anyway. So instead of doing extra work, I'm just going to go ahead and put glue on the circle. I'm going to push it down. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and rest it on the table. Cool, nice. All right, and now that I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and put my tire on, my little tire. Now notice again, I'm practicing before I put my glue on. So go ahead and do this first, and if you need to pause it, and then come back. Okay, so we're ready to put this little cover on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each one of my tabbies. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the residual glue, not really pushing or squeezing the glue out, but I'm going to kind of just dab along the edge. Okay, so now I have glue along the edge. Now try not to get glue on the outer part of this, but on the edge, okay? Now again, if you have glue on your fingers, it's always nice to have that craft rag right there for you. All right, so notice I just put it on there. I'm not molding, I'm not pushing it down. I just placed it first, and then I'm going to start sliding it and molding it, all right? So what I like to do is I like to use my these two fingers to kind of pinch the edges, and then using my pointer fingers to kind of push those edges in. So essentially what's happening is that when I'm pinching, I'm making sure that it's not sliding left to right or bottom to top, and then using my other fingers to just add that pressure to make sure that it adheres nicely. Because gaps can make something look something that's supposed to look great look good. All right, so nice. All right, I got a little extra glue there. Oh, nice, kind of rolled off. Okay, cool. All right, so now we have this part. And the next thing to do is to go ahead and we're going to start constructing the sides. But the first thing that I want you guys to do is I want you to take your two fingers like you did last time and quite literally just stretch and curl the fibers. And we're not going to do this side. Don't do that side because we don't want to mess up what we just glued. All right, and then all these sawtooth combs we're just going to go ahead and push down. Again, if you want to use your ruler and your tweezers to go ahead and do this action, feel free to do so, but I've just found that it's not necessarily needed. All right, nice. All right, so once you guys have that done, you are probably ready to go ahead and start putting it on the top. Now, when you got this, you probably saw that there was a little bit of a nick, right? And you're thinking, uh-oh, mine's defective. That's actually not the case whatsoever. Those nicks are indicators as to where this is supposed to start. And so what I want you guys to do is I want you to practice. You see how that kind of just slides right in there? That's how we're going to do it. So you're going to put glue on that first one, and you guys are just going to let it hang there and let it dry. And then after you do that, we're going to put a little bit of glue on each tab, and we're going to keep going until you get to the 4. So these last 4, I want you to go ahead on both sides to bend them up, because I don't want you to glue those yet. So all of these we can go ahead and glue. So let me go ahead and get this started so you guys can watch. All right, so I went ahead and put glue on the first and the second one, though I should have just did the first one. I was getting excited. And it's definitely easier to rest it on the table. So I'm just gonna let that sit there for a second before I stretch it. All right, and now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the second one. This is one of those things, again, remember, if you get glue on the face of this, it is fine. So definitely try to have glue on this, but not the top, okay, guys? All right, and so once you have these 2 anchor points done, go ahead and start moving. Now you can only go as fast as your glue dries, okay? So just because it looks like that I'm moving pretty quick, again, it's because of the glue that I'm using. So if you're using something that takes a little bit slower to adhere, don't think that you're failing or it's gonna mess up or you just can't do it. It's just gonna take you a lot longer. So again, it's why I recommended this glue, because I know this glue is fast and it holds really quickly, and I can keep moving at a pretty good clip. Now, one of the tricks with you guys is glue. Is if you notice, I'm keeping my glue upside down, and that's a special holder that I had made that we will be selling here shortly. However, for you guys who don't have anything, if you don't have anything to keep your glue down, again, a mug or a jar would work for this. If you don't have anything to keep your glue like bottoms up, essentially, keep it on the side, because this fast grab glue is going to take forever to try to get it down to the bottom. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and there you go. Okay, so pretty much you guys know the deal on the other side, right? So as soon as you get this side done, again, just kind of using my left hand again as counter pressure. Okay. All right, so I have that done. We're going to do the same thing, right? So this is going to start again with this line. So however you started it here, however you started over here, you need to start it on the same side, and that notch is there to help you know where to go. Okay, so go ahead and do this again. Do not glue these 4, and then once you're done, come back to me. With those 2 sides done, we need to go ahead and start gluing this back. Now, the reason why I wanted you to wait is largely because if you ended up doing this kind of cattywampus, it could end up pretty crooked back here, and then it would be really hard to glue it. So this way, it just kind of helps to glue it simultaneously. Okay, so what we are going to do, I'm just realizing I went a little bit fast on mine, but is that we're going to put a little bit of glue right here, at the very tail end. Okay, and then once that is done, we're gonna go ahead and press it in right there. And again, I'm using what little finger dexterity I have going through the windows to just try to apply that counterbalance of pressure. Okay, cool. So once that's done, I'm kind of just making sure, you know, I'm still holding it a little bit with my finger. I'm going to go ahead and now glue these side tabs. Again, just pulling it, trying to make sure that it's as gap free as possible. I'm going to be doing that on both sides. So again, if you want to go ahead and pause and come back to me, feel free to do that. All right, so the good news is 3 of the 4 sides are done. All right, are you ready to go ahead and do the front side? Let's go ahead and get that going. So this is the piece that you were looking for, okay? And so if you guys noticed, you have 2 box tabs on the front and the bottom, and you also have the sawtooth on the side. So you know that there's definitely going to be some curves and some flats. So if you look even closer, you can see that in our arrows, we have a little bit of an indentation on the last set. That is going to provide you guys the guide points as to where you need to bend it or score it, okay? So again, I lined it up at the very, very edge, and I created a very sharp score, which I don't know if you can see. There it goes. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and fold all of these in. And then from there, I'm going to do a little bit of a relaxation. All right, sweet. So what we're going to do is that we're going to glue this at the bottom. All right, and then this is going to be tucked inside. All right, and we're going to glue first the top or the bottom, and then the top, and then the sides. All right, but this is going to be a little bit tricky, so let me go ahead and do this for you. You guys can go ahead and follow along with this part if you've already scored it. But we're going to go ahead and glue that anchor point, and we're going to need to make sure that it is on there really strong. Okay, and then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and actually fold that back. Now, if you fold that back and that tab does come undone like I just did, that is an indicator, obviously, that you didn't wait long enough for your glue to hold. Okay, so again, I'm going to fold it back. There we go, it is hold. All right, and so what I'm going to do is just to kind of show you guys is I'm going to fold this in here. I'm practicing now without glue so you guys can see what's going to happen. Now when I put this in here, when I finally have glue on, I'm going to need to make sure that I'm doing it strong enough so there's no bulge in this piece. Okay, I also want to make sure that I'm not bending this piece, like this bottom piece down, that it's not loose enough to where there's a bulge like this, or things are getting tight like that. So you definitely are going to have to pay pretty close attention to your paper. One of the things that I like to do though, in order for this to be a little bit easier, is these sawtooth tabs right here, they're going to have to be bended away because you want them on the exterior, right? These are going to be the ones that are glued here. So sometimes they just like to get tucked inside when you're doing this, and it's not going to be easy. All right, so what I do is I get a little bit of glue. That's actually not a little bit of glue. That's a good solid line. But then I use my nozzle to kind of spread it. Now, I'm going to clean that off with my craft rag so it doesn't glue onto my thing. Okay, cool. Now that I have a good amount of glue in there, I'm going to wipe that off because it was coming out. I'm going to slide this in here. And then as I slide it in here, I'm going to A, try to keep the pressure on, but B, make sure that I'm not doing this so tight because I'm like looking to see like, okay, is that a good gap? That's a good gap. That looks good. All right, now let's do on the other side. All right, that looks good too. And then just see if that has an equal margin. It should be pretty close. And then from there, just gonna hold it while that glue adheres, because we don't really want gaps. Gaps won't be pretty. All right, and so once that's done, we can go ahead and start gluing on either side. Now, depending upon how far you glued that piece inside, all right, that top piece, this shutter piece might go over the window. All of these shutters are actually made to fit around this window really, really, really nicely. However, what I have noticed in some of the testing is that sometimes like this will happen, which is not a big deal. All you need to do is just curl it around like that. All right. I wouldn't try to cut it. I would just curl it around because we're gonna have pieces that glue over that. All right, so now you guys saw how I contended with that little wrappy there, and you saw how I went ahead and did that. So go ahead and do that on the other side, and then I'll join you right after. All right, so now we have all 4 sides done, which is really good. So our structure is here. We can go ahead and start adding some of the accents, which is really exciting. So in one of your piles, mine is light blue, we have these pieces, okay? And these pieces are gonna correspond with the size of your windows. So we have one that goes in the front that has a medium window in the back, and then we have another one that goes in the back that has a long window that goes in the back, okay? So go ahead and pull those pieces out, but set aside the one with the long window. We will not be using that right now. All right, now this little tiny bag, I'm gonna go ahead and put my ruler over to the side because we're not gonna need it. So this little tiny bag, we're gonna go ahead and get those pieces out. All right, I'm gonna move this here so we can kind of see what's happening. All right, so we're gonna be putting on our windows, and then also these little lights here. These are kind of like little tail lights. We're gonna go ahead and put those on. Now, those little lights are in this bag because they are tiny and we didn't want you guys to lose them. All right, so in your stack, that should be the same color as your base, which also should be very much dwindling. You guys will have your 4 windows. You will have your small windows and your medium window and big window. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and put glue on our small windows. We're gonna put them on. Now, again, only do one side at a time. I have had craft adventurers put them on, try to do them both at the same time, and often glued them on the wrong side. So I like to do it where I'm looking at the very side that I'm doing it in order to make sure that I am on the right side, because we don't want to mess up the paper. Okay. All right, there you go. Cool. And so now in this little tiny stack, there should be a rectangle with like a curve at the back, and then also, or not rectangle, triangle, and then also a rectangle. All right, so this is where the tweezers are like super, super helpful. Again, if you don't have tweezers, it's really not that big of a deal. You can use this with your fingers. Just make sure that you keep cleaning your fingers, because I don't know how you're going to do that without getting glue everywhere. All right, and you can put this anywhere that you want to up top. If you want the triangle to be above the front window, you can do that. If you want the rounded part to be in the back or the front, you can do that. This is your camper. This is just inspired by, it's not necessarily replicating any specific kind, so it is fine. All right, and there you go. We have one side done, and we're going to go ahead and glue that right in. Okay, so again, what we're going to do is that we're going to put glue on the smallest piece, which is this little camper top. And then we're going to slide it into place. All right, I'm going to try to make sure that I'm getting the edges, because you definitely want to make sure that you have things glued nice. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm going to kind of go a little bit outside of where I'm supposed to go. And now I'm quite literally just dragging and pushing. All right, dragging and pushing. Very cool, huh? Okay, and what that does is that it spreads out the glue and it doesn't become like wrinkled or anything. So there you go. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the back. Now, if you went ahead and you put your windows on and you had them facing the same direction, you would be wrong, because obviously that doesn't work. So I hope that you guys waited to do one side at a time. All right, so let's go ahead and do the other side. So we're gonna do pretty much the same thing. So you guys already know what's gonna happen. So if you wanna go ahead and just pause this and join me back when your side is done, I will see you guys in a minute. Okay, so we have the front and the back accents done so far. We still have a lot more to go though. But before we add any more accents to it, we need to go ahead and start gluing the hitch together. And largely because we want time for it to glue. So go ahead and find the two really thin rectangles. And then once you find them, what you need to do is that you're gonna need to glue them together. All right, so then this is a really tiny thin amount of glue that I'm putting on top of each other. Okay. All right, so quite literally that's all we're gonna do with this for right now, because we just need it to dry before we fold it, because if you try to fold something that is wet, it's just gonna slip on you. Okay. So now, find these two really fun racing stripes. Now with our this is not a rocket, with our camper facing us, I want you to find the one that has a little bit of an indent in the front, okay? And we are going to go ahead and we're going to glue that right there. Now, you can go ahead and put glue on the whole entire thing, or you can just do it on most of it, but we are only going to be putting glue, or we're only going to be gluing. So essentially, I'm just going to like stop right before I get to that little diagonal, because I notice that I'm putting it off to the side, because we're not gluing the front and the back right now. We are just gluing There you go. We're just gluing that part. Now the reason why I slid it again is because there might have been excess glue on the paper, and I didn't want it to bubble up between the yellow and the blue part, okay? And so I don't mind there being excess glue on the bottom, because again, that's gonna be covered up. Now, that is probably a little messy, so if you have your rag or you want to go wash your hands, you can definitely do that. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing, but again, practice placing your piece first before you put glue on it, just so you know where you need to put the glue. All right, so I'm just going to put glue until a little bit of there. All right. Very nice. Okay. And then I put it down. Sweet. Now once you're done with that, so go ahead and pause if you need to, but once you're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna glue the front. Okay, so one of the things that you guys are gonna need to do with the front is that you're gonna need to train this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold it. But when I'm folding it, notice that I went ahead and like kind of creased it towards the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And then because we want them to meet up. That's the whole point. We want them to meet up. All right, so now that I have that trained, I'm going to go ahead and put glue. Sorry, that was loud. I'm going to go ahead and put glue on these pieces. And if it looks like it's too much, I'm essentially just going to run my finger across it. I have extra glue here, so that's where my craft rag becomes very nice. And now I don't have any glue. So I'm meeting them up, and then I'm kind of pushing them down. Okay. All right, nice. All right, now that we have that action practiced, all right, so you did it here, we're gonna go ahead now and do it in the back. But as you know, we have a little bit of a guide as to where this needs to go. All right, it needs to kind of go right there. It's gonna cover up that seam. So mine is hitting right on top of it. All right, so once you have that trained, go ahead and put the glue on it. Again, if you have too much glue, feel free to use your finger, but make sure you clean your finger off, because that would be not fun to get the glue on your, more glue than you want on your piece. Okay. There you go. All right, nice. All right, now next up, so once you have that done, the next thing that we need to go ahead and do is find this piece. And this piece is going to fit snugly right underneath it. Okay? So go ahead and just outline this. All right, and I mean, I just like slapped it on there. And now I'm going to slide it where I want it to go. Again, spreading that glue everywhere. All right. Nice. It's starting to really come together. You can see it kind of becoming a thing. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to go back to our hitch. Okay? And we're going to bend this. Like so, in half. Okay? And then take your other piece of the hitch, and if you notice that there are little notches, go ahead and fold those notches down. And what we're going to do, and it's a lot easier to do it on the table. And what we're going to do is that we're going to put glue on those notches, and we are going to adhere those notches onto the piece. So let me show you guys how that's going to happen. It's actually a lot easier when you have glue introduced into the mix. All right, so again, I have it on its side. All right, I'm going to push one side, push the other. All right, while that's drying, there's one window that we have not applied. So go ahead and find this double paned window. And we are going to apply that window right here. So again, go ahead and put glue on the smallest surface. So that would be, in this case, the window and not the camper. And at any point you need to pause, feel free to do so. Okay. And then you just place it. Now I'm going to put my fingers inside to kind of shape it too. And this might be one of those things where you want to go one side then the other. But feel free to use all the windows. Okay. Nice. All right. Very cute. Very, very cute. Okay. So now the hitch should be dried. So it's time for us to go ahead and put the hitch in the front. So what we're going to do, I was going to do a little pocket of glue here and a little pocket of glue on the other side. Okay. And then from there, we're just gonna plop it on one side, plop it on the other, and we're just gonna hold it. Now what I like to do is I like to have it like on the baseline, you know, that it meets up with the bottom as much as possible. That's just how I like to do it. So again, using the same like pinching action that I did earlier. All right, and so now with that glued, we can go ahead and put the covers on top. So you should have 2 pieces like this. And that is gonna go right on top and it's gonna hide all of those tabs, which is really, really nice. Now I can see that I got some awesome gaps happening here. And that's what happens when you go a little fast. So, but we do have something that will help us hide those, and we'll get there in a minute. Okay, so again, you guys have seen me already use this trick, but what I'm going to do is notice that I'm kind of putting it over to the side, and I'm just going to slide it to rest. And of course, that's smearing the glue, getting adhesion to be even. Okay, all right, so we got one side done. Now we're going to do the other side. So again, practice where it needs to go before you put the glue on. Don't just assume. Okay? All right. So again, I'm just following the edges here because I want to make sure that the edges get a nice, clean, crisp seal. All right. So again, just kind of placing it. And there we go. All right. Nice. All right, that's looking really good. Now I have some glue on my fingers, so I'm going to go ahead and take a break and just scrub my fingers down. This is a good stopping point for you guys if you need to go ahead and clean your fingers or do something else, but then come back to me because we have the door and a little bit more accents to do and we're almost there. All right, so let's get going. So we have the door here, okay? And there's a couple of different things that we can do with the door. Right now, you guys notice that there is a hole here, and this hole is gonna allow us to figure out what color doorknob we want. You can either have a yellow doorknob by placing this on top of the yellow racing stripe. You can have a doorknob that's the same color as this background, or there is a little tiny rectangle. And if you glue the rectangle underneath, you can end up having a doorknob that's the same color as the bottom. Now I like how that looks, so I'm gonna go ahead and choose that option, and I'm gonna essentially just dab right around it. I'm gonna just plop that in. All right, so there you go. I have a little excess glue, so I'm gonna take it out. All right, cool. And so now I'm just gonna put this wherever I want. Let's see, I got a little piece of glue there, so I'm gonna take it out. All right, cool. So that looks good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on my door. And I am going to slide it, but not a lot because I don't want the extra glue to get crazy. Nice. All right. Sweet. So I really like how it's looking so far, but we still have a couple of pieces. Okay, so first off, we have this little yellow piece. It's going to be our finishing touch in the front. So let's go ahead and put some glue on that piece. All right, and so once you have that, whew, I like to put it on top of the seam, like right aligned with it. All right, and then we have these tiny little pieces. And what these tiny little pieces do is that they're gonna be the ones that kind of help the seam. You can see this is the tiny little piece here. This is gonna be the tiny little piece up top. And what you guys have probably noticed is that there's a curve, there's a smaller curve and then a bigger curve, and it definitely goes with this. All right. Now this little tiny yellow piece is one of those things where it's probably really hard for you guys to see the yellow on the green. It's small and paper can stretch. So you're gonna be able to mold this, but you're gonna get also a lot of kind of glue everywhere. So sorry, but the detail is worth it. All right, so just notice how I'm just adhering that. Little tiny glue. So again, it also might be one of those things where if you want to put glue on your finger and quite literally do this, and notice I got a lot of glue right there. I'm just going to keep essentially spreading it down. Okay. Now I have a nice good glue path on all of it, but I'm going to lay a little bit at a time. All right, so very much you want your anchor point, and then, ooh, don't get on there. That ain't going to look good. There you go. And just cover the edge. Trying to do this where you guys can see what I'm doing and do it nicely at the same time is difficult, to say the least. All right, and then this glue, because it's thin, the amount that I'm putting on there is drying quickly, so I'm gonna have to apply a little bit at a time, but you can see that line there. All right, so I'm gonna just peel it back. Again, if I need to go with my fingers and kind of spread it out, I'm definitely gonna do that. Okay, spread it out. Gonna use the fact that I don't have any wheels on here yet. And just placing it on the edge. And it's going to do a good job hiding any of those gaps that perhaps snuck through. Okay. And it's supposed to end quite nicely at the yellow, which you can see there. Nice. All right, and so now you got one side done. Go ahead and do the other side, and I see you guys shortly. All right, gang, we are almost there. So we have the base done. Now we just need to do the tires and the hitch and these two little headlights. Now, I don't like to do the headlights until I have the tires done. So let's go ahead and look at the tires. So go ahead and pause on this screen and get all of these pieces lined up as so. Now, granted, they don't necessarily need to be lined up exactly like this. Just, you know, this is one tire, this is one tire, and this is one tire. All right, so once you have that, come back to me. Cool, so you have it figured out. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is that we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take this piece. I'm gonna do one tire with you guys, all right? Now, if you guys notice, there is an indent on our, right there, on our tab. That's gonna let us know where this end or the back of the tab needs to glue and line up. Okay, so that's really, really, really important. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put glue on my tab. And then I'm gonna let it sit there for a second. We're gonna need to let that dry. So let me show you again one more time, okay? I'm gonna take the piece, I'm gonna curl it. Now at that edge, that is where the tab needs to go and needs to line up. All right. So notice that I kind of did the drag thing. All right, and then it's gonna go in here and it's going to line up, and I'm gonna hold it. Have little shards of glue on my little strings of glue. Okay, so while that's done, I'm gonna chill that out. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna do this piece. All right, so go ahead, it kind of looks like a, I don't know, something, I don't know. But you guys already know what's gonna happen, right? That where this lines are, that's where this piece needs to line up. You also know with the sawtooth combs that those are going to be pushed in. I'm just gonna go ahead and push in the center ones for right now. And the way that you're gonna get this to line up is that you're gonna put it in here and then you're gonna have to like twist up in order to line this perfectly. All right, so it's gonna be hard because you're gonna wanna do it and you're gonna see that the tab is just gonna wanna go straight like this. But you really do need to line this where the tab is continuing in the circle, which I don't know if you guys can see. All right, and you're also gonna want the tab to go inside. Actually, no, you're gonna want the tab to go on the outside. So I'm gonna put the glue on the inside like that, and you're gonna wanna glue it like that. All right, so you can see right now how the tab just naturally wants to go like that. Well, I'm gonna hit it with my finger and I'm gonna twist it. And you really want these little tabbies to line up. You want it to be as straight as possible. There we go. So instead of this being like pointed this way, you see how it's kind of going along the circle. All right, and so now you can see how these two tabs right here, let me point them to you. The edges are right next to each other. You see that? The edges of these two are right next to each other, and that's how you know you did it right. Okay? All right, so now I'm pushing the outer ones out and the inner ones in. All right, so again, the tabs here, these tabs are going out, the inside tabs are pointing in. And what we're gonna do is that we're gonna take this little green piece and we're gonna glue it in the middle like that. Okay, so I just did that so you guys could see how it's gonna go. But now I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on these tabs inside here. Just little dabby dabs. There you go. And quite literally can just push it. Now, definitely got some glue on my fingers, so I'm gonna use my rag to clean that up. All right, now that's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this piece, okay? And this is where the inside of this is going to get glued. Now, if you notice, there's a little bit of a gap. I'm not gonna worry about that because that's where this rim comes in and kind of hides any of the mistakes that we have made. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this glue on these tabs, pointing it down. Okay. Now, I'm gonna do this on the table because it's the easiest way to do it. But I'm gonna put this over the circle, all right? And then I'm taking these tabs and I'm essentially gonna pull them apart while I'm pushing down. And what's happening is now I'm stretching that inner circle. All right, and if I gotta pinch it a little bit, I'll pinch it to mold it. All right, and so doing so, I should have a pretty good seal, but I do have a little bit of like a gaps there. You guys can see that. Well, luckily for me, we have this little rim here that will hide most of it. Okay, so a little bit of glue. Gonna put my rim on and just kind of there we go. All right, nice. Okay, all right, so just gonna make sure that it's good. All right, cool. All right, now time to glue this onto the piece. Okay, so you guys notice that there is a box tab on the top, right? We have a box tab there and a box tab here that I'm holding on to. And then we have a whole bunch of sawtooth combs. Now the sawtooth combs are, they're shaped a little bit differently, but they're gonna be on the exterior of the tire. And the reason why we're gonna do that is because they're gonna be the treads of our tire. So if you guys see, there's a little bit of tread work. And so these are gonna be treads that we do not want to hide. All right, so as we're doing that, where the seam is where I want to put my box tab, okay? Because the seam is where the top of the tire is going to be. And if I do that, then that means A, it's flat. So if you guys remember, the wheel well is flat up here. So that's how it's going to glue the tires on. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let that glue or like sit. I'm gonna go ahead and just fold down these tabs while I wait for that to glue. Alrighty, so while I wait for that to glue, that should be good and cured now. I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on the little tiny pieces here. Okay. So just doing them in order. And now I'm going to go from the other side. Oh, I got a sneaky tab. I don't even know if I put glue on that one. Oh, I did. And the lucky thing is that we have 3 tires to do. All right. So you have one tire that's going to be very front and center, right? It's this tire right here. You have another tire that you're not going to see. You're only going to really see the back of, but we're going to complete it anyway, just because, you know, that wouldn't be nice to have a tire that's not completely done. And then you're going to have a tire that you're going to see second, right? So essentially, if you're reading in between the lines, you're going to have one tire that looks really, really good, probably your third one because you've practiced. You're going to have one tire that doesn't look very good at all, probably your first one that you can hide, and then the middle one. So when you have your 3 tires, you're going to figure out, okay, I like this one the best, and so you put it in the front. I like this one the least, you put it in the back, and this one is the middle one, and you're going to shove it up in the front. And there. Okay. And that's how it's going to go. So let me go ahead, and let's go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and glue the back on. Okay. All right. All right, so gluing that right there. I'm just gonna let that sit for a second. And this is one of those things where I like to do it in stages. So for instance, if I wasn't doing this for recording, I would let this dry and go ahead and work on this piece, you know? So then at that point, everything is kind of drying really well before I move on to the next piece. And so I'm kind of like alternating between the 3. But in order to save time here with you guys, I'm going to go ahead and just move on. All right, so you guys already saw how I glued the front of the tire. And essentially it's going to be the same way, where I don't want to glue all the way around, because what that ends up doing is that kind of pushes the paper into weird directions. But if I do some on the right and then some shutters on the left, or some sawtooth combs on the left, it works really, really well. All right. Because at that point, I'm kind of just moving this. Some of a bubble here, so I'm just kind of moving where I see needs it. Okay, and I have one cutie tire done. All right, so now in order to glue the tire, first, let me show you guys this. All right, first off, this tire back here doesn't even need gluing. Because this is so snug, quite literally, after you play with it for a little bit, you should be able just to like put it in there, right? And so this tire, it's fun. You can quite literally just put it in and out, however you want, okay? So this one goes in, it goes out, whatever, all right? So, but the other ones, you're going to definitely need to glue. And so what I do here is I glue the top. So I put the glue on the top. And then when I glue it, I'm definitely going to do that little draggy thing. But I like to make sure that the rim here is kind of centered with this little cut. All right. And there we go. We have a tire. Now, lucky us, we get to do that 2 more times. Again, I would wait and adhere your glue or adhere your tires to your camper once you have all of them done. So you can definitely put your best one in the front, and then so on and so forth. Okay, so go ahead, finish the rest of your tires, and glue and adhere them however you're going to, and then come back to me because we still have tail lights and a hitch. Just a little final piece to make. All right, we're almost there. All right, guys, so we have our tires done and we are about to do our tail light. So I like to always have this done first because I like to see what kind of padding I have. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue here. That's kind of a lot, but whatever. There you go. That looks good. Of course, I accidentally used the finger that had a little bit of wet glue on it. Let me wipe it off this time. Okay. There we go. We got our little tail lights. Of course, you can spread yours out a little bit if you want to. That's nice. All right, and so the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to work on this piece. Okay, so this is a box tab. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to fold the box tab, okay? So you can just like fold it in half there. And then this is going to be the round hitch, all right, which we can see right here. This is like, it's the round hitch. Now I understand that this is like really tiny and you're probably wondering like, how in the world am I going to make that a tiny little circle? Well, it's actually a lot easier than you think. So, but first we bent the tab down, and now what we've done is that we've kind of stretched out the pieces. You know, we curled it as much as we could. You know, I'm taking it with my finger and I'm kind of curling it. All right. And so what we're going to do is that we are going to kind of do a slight bend, and we're going to glue it. So it's going to look kind of bent. Okay. So I'll put some glue on this box tab right here. And then I'm going to just adhere it. All right, and we're just going to stay here for a second and like let this glue. Now this does not look like it's going to turn into a circle, but I promise you guys that we will mold it into a circle. All right, and so once you feel like that has cured, essentially, you just kind of squeeze it out. Now, of course, if you have a really tiny paintbrush handle or like a dowel rod, I'll use those often as well. You can form it. But there you go, you have a circle. Okay. And now we have our base. But first, let's go ahead and do our little accent on the bottom. So I'm going to take my rectangle, put some glue on there. I'm just going to wrap it, and I want to make sure that my seams are kind of all in the back. Okay. Now, if you have tweezers, this is a good time to use them, but I was trying to stay clear of them for you guys right now, just for the people who don't have them. Okay, and then once you have that done, you just kind of put glue on the edge, and then you place it in the middle of this circle that matches the same color as the base. All right, so now you have a nice little hitch that will stay, and you're probably wondering what this little tiny piece is. This is just to go on top. It's optional, but I like it. So there we go. And again, if it's too much, just dab your finger over it. Take the excess off and place the little circle there. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, we have our little tiny hitch, which is nice with the little tiny glue. Whoa! Why are you jumping off, dude? All right, so now what we're gonna do, and this is gonna be kind of hard to see, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the seam, so everyone has a seam. I'm gonna take the seam, I'm gonna point it away, because generally speaking, no one is going to look at like the other side, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of glue right here. I'm gonna even scrape some of that off. All right. I'm going to take the seam, point it away, and I'm going to rest my fingers, because I'm going to have that sitting up by itself. Rest my fingers, and then I'm going to put the hitch right where I want it to stand. And I'm just going to sit here and let it dry. Now you can have it up high, you can have it down low, because I mean that post is a pretty good size. I would say it's about 1 inch. So it's kind of up to you. But what I would definitely do is I would sit there and nurse it for a little bit. So you can see mine is pretty up high. And then once it's dry, don't do this, I mean, like you can even let it just like sit there for a little bit and it will dry, because you definitely want this to have a secure hold and bond, because it is actually weight bearing, which is why the reasons why we used 2 plies of paper here instead of 1, if you remember how we put the 2 rectangles together, because it does need that extra fortification in order to keep structural integrity. Okay, and so there we go, and now it will stand. Awesome, guys. Great job. You did it! You put together your craft. Now, I know that there was probably a moment or two where you probably, you didn't know if it was gonna come together, but it did. And I'm super proud of you for hanging in there, and you did it, and I hope that you're proud of yourself too. And I want to show off your hard work. So if you could send me a picture of your completed craft at Unstationary on Instagram or Facebook, or hello@unstationary.store, I would love to share those. Also, if you have any questions or feedback or a request of other fun things to make, feel free to hit me up at hello@unstationary.store. Until next time, friends, happy crafting. Bye.